Hey guys, Bart from TST Industries here. In this video we're going to show you the installation of the TST Industries Undertail Closeout on a 2013 and up Kawasaki Ninja 300. This closeout can be used by itself on bikes that have the OEM fender eliminated or in conjunction with our standard fender eliminator to make a nice set that closes out the void left behind by the fender and also has provisions for mounting your license plate. This is a straightforward design, so we'll begin. So in the first step, we will be removing the license plate off the bike. We will retain the OEM hardware for mounting the license plate that will be reused on the TST Industries fender eliminator. Next, it will be necessary to remove either the rear seat or if your bike is equipped with a solo cowl, we'll be removing that. Next, it will be necessary to remove the side panels. To start that, we will remove these fasteners, one from each side of the bike. And now we'll be able to pry this panel off and take it off the bike. So this panel has a series of friction fasteners that fit into rubber grommets, so it's necessary to remove this panel outward from the bike. As you can see, these fasteners fit into these grommets and they just lock in by friction. We will do that on both sides of the bike. And this gives us access to the seat bolts. Now we will remove those and take the seat off the bike. These bolts are located right here under the seat. Now the seat will come up and towards the rear and off the bike. So in this step, we'll need to remove these two fasteners. On this particular bike, this bracket is installed in place to allow for the mounting of the solo seat cowl. On stock bikes that have a seat, there will only be two screws here. So we'll now remove these screws, and on this bike we will also remove the bracket. Next, we will remove the rivet type fasteners from this panel. They're located here, 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 and here. To do this, we will pop in the centers and then just take out the fasteners. Next, we will be removing the 8mm screws from the side panels here. There's one on each side. Now we can start working the side panels off the tail. Now these side panels also have friction fasteners, so we will pry straight out. Friction fasteners are located here, here, and here, and they mount into grommets that are located here, here, and here. We'll do that on both sides of the bike. And now this panel will be free as well. So we will clear its friction fasteners here by popping them out. And then there are two additional ones right here. So we need to remove this panel straight up. Now that we have access to this area, we'll remove this bracket. And this allows us access to all the wiring and plugs for the equipment that we will be removing along with the stock fender. So now we will remove these three plugs, press down on this tab, and that will release the plug that we're interested in removing. And on this particular plug, we will need to press this locking tab in this way and withdraw. Alright, so we're only removing these three. We'll leave this one on. Gonna unclip it from this routing guide here. Make sure it's loose. Now we can go back to the trunk area and lift up on the trunk liner. And we'll snake out these three wires. And now also remove them from the frame routing guide here. And now all that's left is this rubber grommet or seal that's in place here. We'll remove that temporarily and pass these wires down to the bottom. Once I get to the plugs entering the orifice in the undertail, be careful not to rip anything off and just guide them through. All right, and now we're ready to actually unscrew this whole assembly and remove the fender. So we will begin the removal of the fender by undoing these 4 screws. I'll just crack them loose first. And this way I could remove the screws without the use of the ratchet handle. Makes it much easier. Once you get to the last 2 screws, you will need to manipulate the fender a little bit to make sure that the screws aren't being binded. And on the last one, I will support the fender from the bottom so it doesn't drop. So our Undertail Closeout has a few different functions. If you're going to the track and you don't need any equipment on the tail of your bike, you can use this closeout to close out this whole area and make sure that no water or debris get into your undertail trunk area. Another use is for the combination of the Undertail Closeout and our basic fender eliminator, in which case you would take the fender eliminator, align it with the holes. And for this assembly, you would use the screws that came out of the OEM fender, put them through, and use the hardware that was provided with this closeout kit. Using one washer, we'll put it on top of that screw. Now we'll fasten it down with one of the locking nuts. Now we'll do the other side. Get it finger tight first. And then what we want to do is center the bracket. It looks like I have done that. And we can lock this in place. So as you can notice, there is a 3rd hole in the closeout right here. We provide additional hardware to blind that hole out in case you're not using a license plate light or aftermarket signals that go in this area. If you are using any sort of equipment that will require wiring to go inside the bike, you will use that hole and feed the wiring through. And then your equipment will be out here and entering the inside of the trunk, and you can wire it up in there. However, if you're not using that and you're just putting your license plate here, you can use the countersunk screw to blind it out. Use one of the washers on top of this screw and the additional nut from the hardware kit. And once you get to this place in the assembly, you could install your license plate on here and proceed to the reassembly of all the components. So to attach the license plate, we'll reuse the OEM hardware. We'll center the license plate, push it up so it's nicely tucked up, and then just tighten down on the screws all the way. We'll begin the reassembly process with this bracket. We'll arrange it like this with the rubber grommets towards the back of the bike. Fit it into position, making sure all the wiring on both sides fits properly around the bracket. And we'll start fastening it down with screws that came out of it. These are the 10mm hex heads. Now I'll lock them down. The next step will be the installation of this center panel. We'll find these two friction fasteners, fit them into these grommets here, press them into position, making sure they bottom out. Now we will press these in, one on either side. Now we will go to the rear side panels and press in the friction fasteners into their receiving grommets. Now when aligning this part, you have to keep in mind that it has to engage all these components here properly. So this little tab will go under here, and these tabs on this center component will go under the side panel. Once you have it aligned nicely, you press in on all of the friction fasteners, and this piece is in place. We're going to go on to the other side, follow the same procedure, align it with the friction fasteners, make sure all the geometry here engages, and press it in. So now I'll just fasten all those components down with the screws that we removed from them. We'll start with the 8mm hex head screws on the sides of this panel here. There will be one on either side of the bike. I will now install the 4 rivet type fasteners that we took out from the center panel. To do this, we will need to reset them into the unlocked position like this. Push them through and set them. So now we will be replacing the rear fasteners on these 2 panels. I'm going to install this bracket that holds the solo seat cowl on. In the event that your bike is equipped with only an OEM seat, you will still have these fasteners, but this bracket will not be present. And at this point, we will proceed to the reinstallation of the seat. The seat has this captive geometry here. It engages from the back towards the front, just like that. Now we will replace the fasteners that hold the seat on. All right, so now we will be replacing the under seat panels, making sure that these friction fasteners align with the receiving geometry. Once you align them, just press them in. We'll do that on both sides of the bike. Now we'll fasten them down with the screws that came out of this location originally. this point, we could replace the seat or seat cowl. And now the installation is complete and you're ready to go.